Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government. The Ministry of Education has commenced distribution of laptops under the government's Enhancing Learning Continuity and Inclusion Project, commonly referred to as the One-to-One Laptop Program. There are many questions swirling about the do's and don'ts related to the devices, including what software and applications are installed, and can the devices be used for purposes other than class-related work. Joining us today to provide some of the answers are Carla Mills-Diamond, Acting Chief of Education Planning within the Ministry of Education, and Satyajit Behera, Senior Director of Business Operations for International Markets of Fortuna Pix. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. Welcome back to InFocus, and allow me now to welcome Ms. Carla Diamond, for Education, and Mr. Satyajit Behera of Fortuna Pix to our program. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So we're here to discuss the biggest thing right now in SKNIS in terms of education. It's what persons call the one-to-one laptop program, but it's really called the Enhancing Learning Continuity and Inclusion Project. First of all, Ms. Diamond, explain to us what is the difference between what was the one-to-one laptop program, because you were saying there is a difference, and what we have now.
Okay, so the one-to-one laptop program was initially introduced as a way of ensuring that persons had access to devices and technology. The main difference to me is that this particular initiative really came out of the COVID situation, because during COVID, you would have had a lot of learning loss because students were on lockdown, some didn't have devices. So the more vulnerable population of students, they really were not in a position to access learning, hence the name Enhancing Learning Continuity. So continuing the learning was an issue. Now, at the time, we would have had some laptops that were distributed to some teachers, and would have had some tablets that were on loan to students. With this initiative, it was to fill those gaps and make it a real situation where most, if not all, students can now have access to devices in a more proactive and intentional manner. So I think that is the main difference, that this is a little more proactive and intentional to deal with what we call distributed teaching and learning, which means that both the students and the teacher can connect and conduct the learning and teaching process, even if they're in different spaces. So what are some of the areas we had to look at in order to make that happen? We had to think about how do they connect? What access do they have to devices? And so the devices were provided. It was determined that the laptops would be for the secondary students because they're more mature, they have things like SBAs, and then the tablets would be for the primary school students. So that was the initial setup. But the program also went a little further, so you'd have things like the fiber connections, because you want connectivity now. In the schools, you want schools to be able to have a broader network so that they're able to get that connectivity and not, the instability of internet is a big issue for our students. So that's one of the things that came as a part of this project. It would have expanded to look at school broadcasting technology, things like a tripod and a webcam and a monitor that would allow for the infant students in particular to be able to connect, because for them a device, they don't have the attention span to really be at home alone on a device. So it provided that sort of capacity.
So you're talking about tripod for the devices?
So that you can set up, right.
Right, okay.
So not quite here, but similar. We would have had the installation of routers, network switches, wireless access points, so that school could have enhanced capacity to deal with things like networking among the students and classes. It also provides analog and digital resources. It has a gender responsive cyber security toolkit development and training. It looks at parent empowerment program. It provides psychometric development and assessment tools for struggling learners and training for teachers in distributed learning. So it was a lot more comprehensive in scope, and the intention was really to make sure that you don't just have a device, but you're equipped to really facilitate the learning and teaching process, even if it's in a distributed environment. So that's the main distinction.
Okay, so very detailed here. Let me jump back a bit and speak about the internet, the fiber optic in the schools. Where are we with that?
Well, currently, we are still at the point of having persons tender for it. Because it's a project that is sponsored by CDB, there are certain procurement processes that you have to go through. So the last I checked, we were waiting on a no objection from CDB, after which we'll put it out to tender, hopefully before the year ends, and then we'll see which service provider would win the bid. There are some work being done by one particular service provider, but because I'm not so sure of the intricacies of that contract and the contractual arrangement, I would prefer not to name it at this time.
Right, and in terms of, you said that there was some integrated aspects for gender as well, too?
The gender responsive,
yes.
Cyber security. Well, that is a course that is being taught. In fact, I think if the module doesn't end today, it starts today. So that is also something, but I will get into that a little later, a little more details. Gender responsive just means that it takes into consideration that males and females approach cybersecurity differently. And so whatever pedagogy is used, it takes that difference into consideration.
Okay. So tell us about now the devices. How many devices have been distributed thus far?
Well, the distribution will be determined by the contractual agreement. So I don't have the finite details of that as yet, because the process is still ongoing. Parents are still have not collected those devices. So I want at this point to make an appeal to parents, those of you who have not yet collected your devices, to please, the process is ongoing, but we'd like it to come to termination certainly by the end of this week, and for sure before school closes, because securing these devices is also a concern. So I really want to appeal to the parents to make sure that they collect the devices. So as it stands, we have tablets. We have given tablets, made available tablets for grades 3 to grade 6 in the primary school, and all primary school teachers would also have access to tablets. And we would have made laptops available to all secondary school teachers, as well as to the forms 3 to 5 students of secondary schools, public schools that is. So we have made them available. The contractual agreement will determine how many we actually distribute, because I'm understanding some persons already have devices and would just prefer to access the platform and not the device. So when all of that is finalized, then we'll be in a better position to say exactly how many.
So there is scope for that?
There is scope for that, yes.
And in terms of the distribution, you said that they can collect them hopefully by the end of this week, that they will all be collected. How can persons collect them? What arrangements need to be made?
Well, to begin with, there was a central point. The central point was the education planning division, but then they were distributed to schools. So schools would have made arrangement. They would have had an extraordinary PTA. Most of them would have anyway, an extraordinary PTA where parents were allowed to come in and collect on a class level. the contract would have been sent home so that they would have had a chance to peruse it. Some parents may need, a little help going through the contract. They would have been able to access that help. Maybe it's an older child who would have helped them to go through it and understand it. It was sent to them so that if they had any concerns and questions before signing, they could ask, so that they don't just come to the school and they are forced a contract and they have to sign. So all of those considerations were given, and the distribution would have been organized on a class-to-class basis. They would have been invited into the school for an extraordinary precisely to distribute the laptops and the tablets. So that's the way it was designed.
And in terms of the age range, you said 3rd to 5th grade, 3rd to 6th graders, and also in terms of the high school students, that would be at what form? Just go over them again for those who
Okay, so the students from primary school who are in grades 3 through 6, they would have been given tablets. And those in the high school from 3rd to 5th form would have been given laptops.
How was the age range determined at this time?
The school itself has a structure. So we have primary school, we have the infant section, which is kindergarten to grade 2, and then we have the upper section, which will be grade 3 to grade 6. We have found that for the kindergarten to grade 2, the attention span, because we are talking about distributed learning and preparing students to be able to function in a space where the teacher may not be in the same room, then that is a little more challenging for the infants. And so that would have determined whether or not we would have made that type of device available. Nonetheless, we have a situation where we would make sure that these students are still exposed to the technology. We want to thank Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine, because they have partnered with us and they have made accessible a number of upgrades in our labs. They have upgraded labs in Dean Glassford Primary, Keon Primary, Joshua Obadiah Primary, Bunty Welch Primary, Newground Primary, Sandy Point Primary, Violet Petty Primary, Edgar T Primary, Estridge Primary, Elizabeth Pemberton Primary in Nevis, and Beach Island Primary in St. Kitts. And we are looking to start Tyrrell Williams Primary. So what that has done is enabled us to make technology accessible to those students in the primary schools who would not have access to a device. And we are encouraging the teachers to use time, to schedule time for those students to become familiar with the technology.
So what happens to the students who are not included in the range that you listed here?
So
in terms of their access to devices?
So that would be the high school, and for the high school it would be the first and second formers. So for the first and second formers, we have Chromebooks, and the Chromebooks are organized in class sets. So class sets just mean that you are not given a device to take home, but you are given full access to a device during the school hours. So we do have provision for that. The Chromebooks are stationed at the school, but we do have Chromebooks for all of those students in first and second form. The project is in both St. Kitts and Nevis. The Nevis has not yet made provision for the collection of devices, but that's all that we're waiting on for them to make that provision.
I want to bring Mr. Behera, discuss a bit about Fortuna Pix, that is the company that you work with. Tell us a bit about the company and how it really got involved in providing solutions in education.
Right. Before I begin, if I may, today, good afternoon to the viewers of Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Every time I fly into this island, I love the view that I get to see from the plane. In fact, I just landed 30 minutes back, and I can tell you, every time I come here, the view is so good. So, I'm happy to be here. Right. I'm Satyajit Behera. So I have been working with my company for the last 7 years now. We actually came into Caribbean in 2016 when we realized Caribbean is a region where the quality of students and the kids that we have are at par with some of the developed countries in the world. We realized, lack of access to resources, quality resources, cannot be the reason why students and the kids of the Caribbean region will fall behind in comparison to the students of the developed countries. So therefore, my company, which is called FortunaPIX, we have the platform called OneLearn. This OneLearn platform enables digital education or digital learning in the form of ebooks and other features that, as we discuss, I will explain, I will talk about. We introduced in the Caribbean region back in 2016. We started our journey with Antigua and Barbuda, and then I can proudly say that now we are in 5 islands where we are doing this project, and we have no plans to stop.
And so how would you say COVID has affected the market for all the services that your company offered?
I mean, normally we use the word affected in a negative manner, but if I have to actually say for my company, or in fact for all the e-learning companies which are there in the world, COVID was actually a blessing in disguise, because a lot of students, teachers, schools, governments realized remote learning has picked up and is going to be the way forward. In fact, even before COVID, I'm sure people who have kids at home would have seen kids learning from various sources like YouTube, or going to other websites where you have different reading materials. So COVID, to just answer your question, COVID actually enhanced our company's solution, our platform, and everybody could see the value in it, and therefore a lot of ministries, a lot of governments reached out to us, and we have been trying to see how soon we can implement or start the projects in different governments.
And so in terms of the similarities or differences between the projects that you've done in other Caribbean countries and what you're doing here in St. Kitts and Nevis, how would you describe that? How does it look?
Right. Well, to be honest, yes, each and every island have their own set of requirements, purely because of the fact that each and every ministry, when it comes to policy level, they obviously will have their own targets, objectives, goals, like every organization. In fact, every department within a company has a certain target that they have to achieve. So obviously the targets will be different and goals will be different. So each and every island has their own goals and targets, but the good part about our company is we directly work with the ministry. So therefore, whatever goals, objectives the ministries assign us, accordingly we customize our solution and our deployment and our planning, and therefore implement the project in those countries. Yeah.
Let me come back to you now as we speak about the devices and having things designed for the local context. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a bit about the contracts that you mentioned, because this is an agreement now between the Ministry of Education and the parents of the students. Tell us a bit about what is in that contract for those who may not be aware.
Okay, so the contract really speaks to the responsibility that the persons, well, the students and the parents would have in terms of the care and protection of the device. So it would start by telling you, well, what is a good care package for the device? It would charge you to make sure that you have the screen protected, that you have the keys protected, you don't have it in spaces where there could be spillages, you don't keep it exposed to heat, for example, in car trunks. It will tell you what to do if it is damaged, what is the process, what is the procedure, what to do if it is stolen, what happens if it's damaged maliciously or if it's damaged through negligence. So it would have given different contexts and tell you how you should act and what is the expectation. It also spoke to the whole idea of making sure that you take the device to EPD, especially if it has a malfunction.
What's EPD?
Education Planning Division, if it has a malfunction. Because one of the things we don't want students doing is trying to fix it, taking it to anybody for it to be fixed because of our warranty agreement, and it could actually, jeopardize our warranty. So if there's damage to the device is to be brought back. The department will do an investigation to determine whether the damage was through negligence or malice or just a normal accident, and the solution or the outcome will be based on that. If it is stolen, it is important for parents to know that they must get a police report. So that is part of the procedure. If it is stolen, there must be an accompanying police report. utmost care must be taken of the devices because persons will only get one device. So if you're in primary school and you get your device in grade 3, you're not going to get a replacement device in grade 6. If you're a high school student and you get your device in 3rd form, you're not going to get a replacement device in 5th form. So utmost care must be taken of these devices. And of course, the contract will tell you what the replacement cost is, if that's the determination after investigation, both for the tablet and for the laptop. And so parents are aware ahead of time of the financial commitment they would have to make if there is need for replacement. I really want to stress the not tampering with the device. I really want to stress that if there's a problem, don't take it to anybody else. Bring it to our department. You can call 467-1329. Speak to Mr. Herbert. He will guide you as to what to do. But that, I think, should be the first call and the first step.
And so for persons, in cases where there is proof that there may have been malicious damage, what happens?
Well, malicious damage attracts a cost and a replacement cost, because once the investigation can identify that that is the case, and we can identify who would have done the damage, then that person will be liable for replacing the device.
Does that mean that they will be out of a device, or will they be issued a replacement device?
The device is being replaced.
Right, so they will have access to it.
So they will be given the replaced device.
But now they have to, given the fact that they were more or less being careless with it, then they would have to bear the cost of that.
There would be the cost, but the aim for us is to make sure you have a device. And because you're given charge and care for the device, then if you are malicious in damaging it, then that must attract a consequence.
Because of course,
but you will still have access to the device that you would have replaced.
No one must be left behind in education.
No one must be left behind.
Right.
That
and
is
also in terms of the sealing aspect of it now, because you mentioned it, is there some sort of a tracking system involved where persons, the authorities, would be able to say, okay, this device, it was stolen and it's activated here, that they can track it and recover it?
Okay, so for the tablet, we are looking at Intune. So Intune was actually installed on the tablets, and we also have Absolute on the laptops, and those are supposed to help with tracking, with geolocation, cybersecurity, application management. So we do have those applications installed on the devices.
Here's an important question that must be asked. Who's responsible for them? But in the sense of who has ownership of those devices? It is a question that I would like you to consider and answer, but we'll take a quick break.
No problem.
We'll be right back with more in focus. Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with Ms. Carla Mills-Diamond of the Ministry of Education and Mr. Satyajit Behera, who is from Fortuna Pix. And we're here discussing, and I have to get it right, the Enhancing Learning Continuity and Inclusion Project. It is so easy for one to say the one-to-one laptop project, but as you explained earlier in the program, it is much more, it is more extensive than that, which certainly is the way to go in terms of ensuring that our children are exposed to the proper education services. Okay, so we go back to the devices now. Who owns the devices?
And that's a question I'm sure a lot of persons would like to hear the answer to. So, as it stands, a device is distributed in 3rd form. You own the device when you leave 5th form. So if you're given the device in 5th form, you own the device at the exit points for the various stratas of education. So if you're in primary school, you own the device when you get to grade 6. If you're in high school, you own the device when you get to 5th form, when you finish 5th form. So when you exit the institution, you exit with the device. That is how it is structured. And that's the only way it can be sustainable.
Okay. And so what if when you exit school altogether, we're talking about the 5th formers now?
It's the device.
The
exit with the device.
Okay. So will they still have access to the software that is on it in terms of the education material?
Well, no, because the software would speak to a certain form level. So, for example, the software, and Satya is going to get into that in more details a little later, the OneLearn will speak to grade appropriate material. As the same thing, I think, is the CXC syllabus, books that are in support of the supplement, the CXC syllabus, those are installed on the secondary laptops. So basically, when you leave, it's a licensing process. You're licensed through an institution. So if you're not enrolled in the institution, then you can't be licensed through the institution. So basically, once you leave, the platform, the learning platform, is no longer accessible because you're having somebody coming into that space to replace you. But you can have the device.
And in terms of the term when they have these devices, whether it be, as you mentioned, it's third graders, so they go up to 6, so that's 3 years. Tell us about the upgrade of the products, because as we know, technology changes very fast.
Well, the truth of the matter is we are going to have to be, for every cohort that enters third form and grade 3, we have to be buying new devices. So the upgrade is going to happen organically in the sense that where you are at the time, what is available and what is the best fit given the financial constraints, then that's what would be purchased. So you would not necessarily have the same thing that somebody had in the last 2 years. You may have what the finance, what the budget can afford, that is the best fit for us.
But I would have to be using that same device for the next 3 years. So there is a system, or should I say, is there a system to ensure that it's upgraded with the latest applications, software, whatever aspects?
That's a possibility. And EMIS, because currently there are some applications that are installed, but they are not finite. And we are actually intending to continue to upgrade and continue to install from our end. And teachers are also advised to recommend, because sometimes there are things we don't see, but teachers find that are really useful for them. And they'll be advised to recommend those for us to also install. So there'll be that level of upgrade.
You actually just touched on my next question in terms of, we mentioned that the devices are being provided to the students. What about the teachers?
So the teachers would own the devices after 3 years. And again, it all speaks to sustainability. If we say after 2 years and we have mass exit from the profession every 2 years, then that poses a challenge for us. So every 3 years you would have, served, you would have owned that device. But just for sustainability, it cannot be every 2 years, because if I only come in for 2 years and go, and somebody replace me and come in for 2 years, because that's a good slot people use for university. They work for 2 years and then they go to university. They work for 2 years and then they go for university. If that is the case, it means we'll always be replacing. But you find that when a person is in the system for 3 years, it speaks to longevity and the intention to be in there for a long haul. So we thought 3 years was a good mark. So after 3 years, the device is used. It also allows us to deal with the warranty situation, because we don't want to be in a situation where the warranty is compromised because you're out of the system, you own the device, you can't go to the company because you did not purchase from the company. The ministry would have purchased, so the warranty is to the ministry. So it's also a level of protection in terms of the warranty.
So if a teacher is issued with a device and say they leave the system in 2 years, do they return that device?
They do return the device.
Okay. And so let's talk a bit now about the devices being integrated into the classroom. And Mr. Behera can, jump in here a bit in terms of how, or what does that look like here in St. Kitts and Nevis?
Okay. So there are 2 levels. I'll speak to the first level, and Mr. Behera will speak to the second level. And I'm tying up my tongue to say Mr. Behera. Satya.
Thank you.
We speak to the next level. So we have 2 training courses running currently. One in the effective pedagogy for distributed teaching and learning. And I'll just give you an idea of the course outline. So that speaks to the theoretical foundations for effective pedagogy for distributed teaching and learning. And it speaks about designing the learning platforms, designing lessons, the approaches to distributed learning. It has planning for students, sensitive instructions in a distributed teaching and learning context, And it speaks to the planning, it speaks to the workload management, it speaks to the open content for distributed learning, developing instructional resources, evaluating and implementing technologies. Teaching and learning with technology, some of the basic competencies like technologies for distributed teaching and learning, whether it is low-tech, high-tech, radio, television, that sort of thing. It has online facilitation and implementation, classroom management, supporting students, online pedagogies for early learners, that's those lower secondary, as well as the primary students, subject-specific activities, game-based learning, using media, engaging learners in the distributed learning context. Then we have the cybersecurity. The cybersecurity training program speaks to understanding cybersecurity and its relevance in digital learning, identifying and mitigating various cybersecurity threats and attacks, as well as the techniques for safe use of technology for students. What are the best practices? Safeguarding against cyber attacks while teaching online. What are the possibilities? What are the mitigations? And the advanced techniques in online communication, personal security, and device security. So we would not have just looked at the pedagogy that teachers need to be able to integrate technology in the classroom. We would have also looked at the security factor, because you realize that if our system is infiltrated by malware, it has serious implications because it's a network that we are creating. And so one system can actually negatively impact another system. So we have looked at it in a very comprehensive manner to make sure that we not only ensure that the teachers are equipped with the pedagogy, and we are training 150 teachers currently, but we also make sure that we have the capabilities to protect our system from cyber attack and malware. So those are the two main courses that we're doing. We now turn to Mr. Behera.
Sure.
Satya.
Right. That makes me feel younger. Right. So our platform, obviously, the project that we have started here, we have deployed or initiated the project for both primary and secondary. So therefore, the content that we have. In fact, before I talk about the content, let me maybe take this opportunity to explain in detail about what this product is. Like basically, if you see, we have deployed a product here. So there are two components to our product. One is the platform, and the other is the digital interactive books, the e-books that are within the platform, right? These two go with each other. In fact, let me go back to the question that you asked, Ms. Diamond, where you said that, what about the upgrades that will happen over the next 2-3 years? How do we stay relevant? So, when you spoke about why should we not necessarily call it as a one laptop per child program, and the beautiful name that we have, because we realized when you just give a device to a child, you are not necessarily telling the child what to do with the device. If you give a platform or a content that is within the platform, you are basically guiding the children to use the way you want them to use it. Basically, the ministry is going to guide them on how this device can be used. So therefore, our solution helps the Ministry of Education of various countries to make sure that when they start a program like a laptop program or a tablet program, or let's say a Chromebook program, it's just the device that doesn't go to the hands of the kids. There is something in it that is for them to use, and therefore enhance the quality of education, enhance the way they go about learning different things that are there for them to learn about science, mathematics, economics, chemistry, whatever, right? So this is where we come into the picture, and our platform and our content, the digital books that we have. Obviously, in secondary, we have the C6 syllabus when we talk about the higher secondary. So our books are in total alignment with the C6 syllabus that students and teachers have to follow. When we talk about the lower secondary, some countries have their own curriculum, which is where St. Kitts and Nevis also has their own curriculum guiding document. And as a as a practice, what we do is we work with the curriculum unit. We work very closely with the curriculum unit of each and every Ministry of Education to ensure that we review the content every year and therefore make the content relevant. This kind of answers the question that you are asking about the device. The platform also is a software, is an application, and therefore we have to upgrade it to stay relevant, right? So our content, which is also a part of the product, also has to be upgraded time to time so that we stay relevant. So yep, so that kind of, I think, answers your question, I hope.
In terms of the classroom, Ms. Diamond, what are the add-ons that would facilitate a more digitized learning environment for our students?
Well, to be honest with you, most of the add-ons would come from the applications that would be made available. Because if you think about it, and again, Satya is going to jump in because the platform offers so much. It isn't just the library and the books. It offers analytics, it offers reporting, but again, this is Satya's area. It is his platform, so I will defer to him.
Sure.
And you can shed some more light on.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's very important for the parents to also understand, all the parents who are watching today, because honestly, when we started this product, when we started deploying this product, we strongly believe that parents are a very key stakeholder of this entire project ecosystem, because in a way, I always say this whenever I meet people and talk about education, parents are teachers at home. So they're also a teacher. So therefore, for a project like this, for a platform like this to be successful, parents also need to know exactly what happens with the platform. So to therefore answer your question, our platform allows teachers to do a lot of things. We have a lot of features on the platform. In fact, if I may take this opportunity, if it's on camera, let me turn around my tablet. Our platform is basically compatible with a laptop. It is compatible with a tablet. It is compatible with a Chromebook. We do not restrict our platform to a particular set of device. And therefore, even if let's say a child has his or her own device at home, they can log in from their device as well. We allow multiple devices login. So our platform caters to different stakeholders. If I talk about teachers, teachers will have access to a feature called library. Library has all the digital interactive textbooks. In fact, I don't know if you observed, when I walked into this room, I did not ask for Wi-Fi password because I wanted to make a point during the show that our solution also works without internet. And we know for a fact that internet can be a challenge, at times. And therefore, our product, our platform is not dependent on internet for basic features. When we developed the product, we said that just because a child may not have internet at home doesn't mean he or she cannot access the books. So if I open the library today, in fact, without internet, I can actually, okay, let me see if I can show people. Yeah. So without internet, I can open the books. Let me see if I can open science and technology. Right. I'm not connected to internet. I want to show it to everyone here, those if they can see. So, I'm not connected to internet, and therefore I can access the books. Not only the books, I can access the videos that are there within the books. Okay. There is a beautiful video that we have. If I click on watch. So I'm not connected to internet, I can still play the video, and which is where I want all the parents who have tuned in today. Okay.
Solids, liquids, or gases. Objects such as a chair, table, book, and pencil are solids. Solids have a fixed shape. Milk, water, and oil are liquids. Liquids do not have a fixed shape. When we pour liquids into containers of different shapes, they take the shape of the container.
So it basically is covering the science or the primary school students here, basically going through what the different states of matter that we have.
Yes, this is one topic in primary. So similarly, we have content for secondary, lower secondary and higher secondary. What I'm trying to basically say here is whatever you would have normally read from a print book or a physical book, same concept is there in the digital format. And on top of it, we have interactive videos, we have interactive quizzes, and we have interactive activities that the teachers can use in the class. And the students can follow the instructions of the teachers. And students at home, whether they use their own device or the ministry given device, they can use this book and the platform to continue their learning process. If I may, apart from the library module, which basically has the digital interactive books, we also allow teachers to create their own exams. Exams can be conducted using the platform, both paper 1 and paper 2. I'm sure everyone knows paper 1 is basically multiple choice. If it's a multiple choice exam, the system will grade it for you. Teachers do not have to mark it. So we are saving, teachers can save so much time on doing mundane tasks. And therefore, Ms. Diamond, I remember, spoke about the analytics part of it. And the moment the assessment is done, when the students attempt the quiz, automatically a personalized and a customized report for each and every student of that class will be created, and a teacher can access the grade book and therefore, in fact, try to send it to the parents as well if needed. Yeah, and then we also have features like assignment, where the teachers can give assignments to the students. Apart from the content that you see on the book, teachers can add their own content. Teachers, if they want to, for example, my maths teacher when I was in school used to give us set of questions to practice at home. My English teacher would ask us to watch a video, when we go back home, So therefore, all these additional resources in the form of a video, in the form of questions, in the form of homework can also be given by teachers to the students. We also allow teachers to maintain or mark online attendance. Okay, we also have a feature, coming back to your COVID question, we also have a feature where you can conduct live classes using our platform. So these are some of the key features that are there. We have a lot of other features. If you give me a day, I can speak about it.
We certainly would like to delve into that a bit more, because there's a lot of fascinating features, and I think it's important for persons to know, as this is a public program where the taxpayers' monies are being spent. And certainly this seems to be a very integrative and very innovative, interactive program as well too. And so we'd like to delve in it a bit more, just to expose persons who do have children in terms of what they can expect, and those who do not know, or those who do not have children, to know how their monies are being spent. Sure. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with a bit more in terms of the demonstration for the software, if you're able to do that.
Sure.
We'll be right back with more InFocus.
Thank you.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with the laptop devices that are being given out to our students here in St. Kitts and Nevis as the Ministry of Education moves forward with digitizing education in the classrooms for our peoples, of course, which is an important part of the Sustainable Island State agenda. So, Ms. Diamond and Mr. Behera, we come back and we continue our discussion. Mr. Behera, you said something that is very interesting that I want to ask for. In the sense where you mentioned that the device or the software can be installed on an additional device. But if all of the devices are connected, how does that impact security?
No, honestly, it doesn't necessarily have. So, for example, let's say, do you have a Facebook account, if I may ask? So, I'm sure you probably log in from your laptop sometimes. Maybe you log in from your phone sometimes, or maybe a tablet, right? As long as you know your login ID and your password is secured with you, nobody can access your account. So, to access our platform, each and every teacher, each and every student has their own login ID and password. So as long as they have maintained and ensured that they have not shared it with anybody else, their account, whatever materials they have on the platform on their account doesn't get compromised at all. Yeah.
And in terms of Ms. Diamond, in terms of the aspect of using them within the classroom itself now, for instance, if you're conducting a test, how do you prevent against teaching? Is there a way to, maybe someone may be able to use a different tab or some aspect of the device to go and research something and then go back on and fill in the answer?
Well, it comes down to teacher supervision, because if you're going to administer a test on the device, I would expect you to set up the conditions and the environment you would normally have for a test. It's just the same as if like I'm doing a paper test. You still have to make sure that the person doesn't use a phone, etc. So the teacher would have to use the particular site on the platform, the particular area which would allow the teacher to do the test. And I think it's set up that way. But I really am not the best equipped person to speak to that. Satya would know better how that is set up, because that is their product.
Yeah. If I may just, no, I did not, can you please?
Right, well, the question, it was referred to persons, for instance, if the teacher were to issue, you mentioned, the multiple choice,
right.
number one. But for the students, when they are doing the test, what is there to prevent them from maybe such as closing down the software, opening, say, a browser,
right.
finding an answer, and then going back and accessing it and answer?
Right. So the restrictions will be at two levels, or can be at two levels, if I may say that, because one of the restriction would be, let's say, for example, the exam is being conducted in the school. So I'm sure, you would know that at the school network level, there are restrictions which doesn't allow students to go or access certain websites, right? And then coming to the device level restriction or platform level restriction, if I have to use that word, the moment a child tries to go out of the exam environment, he or she has to submit the exam before he or she can exit the screen. So the moment they exit out of it, their assessment is submitted. So they miss out whatever questions they probably did not attempt, they miss out on submitting them. Okay. Yeah.
And so they won't have a chance to go back in to answer. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right, there really is, it penalizes you. It makes no sense for you to try and do that.
Right.
Right, very intuitive. Okay, let's talk a bit more now about the software, the standard software, and how it was created for the dynamics of the local classrooms here.
Right. I think, this is something ministry, apart from the platform that we have given, we are also continuously discussing with the IT department to see what are the other softwares that can be installed which complement our platform. And I'll give you an example. Let's say an English dictionary that,
Is one able to install Google Translate on the device? Without having the direct permission. For instance, if I were to have a device now, can I go and do it? Or would it have to be built into the platform for me to be able to access that?
Right. So let me go back to the fundamental thing. Our application is an application similar to other applications that you would find on your phone or on your laptop, right? So whatever applications we believe will be helpful for the students, that see, there are so many, there are, I think, maybe millions of applications today, if you see. It will be at a policy level, the Ministry of Education will have to decide what are the applications which will help the students to learn or make use of it so that they can enhance their quality of education. So therefore, if I have to talk about integration of other application with our application, that is something I cannot answer right now, because unless I understand the dynamics of what that application is, what that application does, I cannot answer that, because if I have to use technical terms, the API of our application has to talk to the API of the other application. So there are a lot of complications involved. But if there is a request from the ministry that can you add a feature which is similar to, let's say, Google Translate, we can do that without having to depend on Google Translate. Sorry, Ms. Diamond, if I may, I'll just take 2 more minutes. As I speak, our team is working on a feature, because we got this request from one of the ministries where they said that some students do not, see very well. and therefore they have, special challenges. So in that case, is it possible for your platform to be able to read out the words, read out the book for them? So we said, yes, there are applications that we can install, and therefore it can read whatever the application wants to read, but it will be very complex for us to integrate the application. So therefore we decided to within our team, we decided to develop that feature where a student can click on read it loud, so that the software will read it aloud, the book or the chapter that is there within our platform.
Which basically goes back to what you said in terms of ensuring that the upgrades are in keeping with what is demanded by each country,
right,
by each territory, right? Certainly it's very exciting. So what about recreational use for of the devices now? There are some persons who may feel that, okay, well, it's mine, I can do whatever I want. I want to go and look at some videos on YouTube or whatever. Is that allowed?
As a matter of fact, we tend to do the installation ourselves. So we take recommendations, we make sure that they're appropriate, and then we do the installation for you. So we have that level of management as part of our protection of the children strategy.
And also, I have to ask in terms of the time a child spends on the device. Now, it is primarily designed for education, as we established. However, there are studies that show that spending too much time looking at a screen, especially a small screen, does impact the development of some persons, their brain development. And of course, that will also limit in terms of their social skills, their interaction as well too. For instance, you're behind a device, you're inside the house, and not necessarily outside pitching marbles or kicking a football. Is there any thought of control system whereby it determines how long a child can stay on a tablet?
Well, that isn't something that is installed, and I don't think we have had any discussion around it. But what we do know is that even the training that the teachers are getting in terms of the distributed learning, those are considerations that are given. So you would know that this is the amount of screen time that is healthy, that after this number of minutes or hours or what have you, you're supposed to take a break, to stretch, to move around. And then even when it's at home, it mostly caters to home assignments, etc. It really does not have a lot of recreational aspects to it, which is one of the things that do encourage students to just stick around. I know I have a son, be at home, not go out to play, not socialize, but just get comfortable being behind the screen. So that's as much as we can do from our end, and we're asking parents to be vigilant and to make sure that the students do get that socialization time, because it is critical.
Okay. Mr. Behera, back to you now in terms of the software. What are the aspects that you would really like to highlight on our program today?
Right. There's one more feature I would definitely like to talk about, and I'm sure it will make Ministry of Education happy if I speak about it. It's called the lesson plan feature. Okay, so we have a feature, while apart from the features that I spoke about, the library feature, which has the digital interactive books, we also have a feature called lesson plan. The lesson plan basically allows, or lesson delivery, allows teachers to create their own learning plans, and therefore go about their teaching process, whether in the classroom or outside the classroom. We also have a feature called doubts, where students can raise doubts or ask questions or queries, whether they are reading at home or they are reading in the school, right? Then we also have a feature called publish, which allows teachers, I spoke about it a while back, which allows teachers to share their own reading materials with the students. It can be in the form of a video, it can be a PDF document, it can be an audio, it can be an image. Then we have, when we talk about digital education, when we talk about turning everything digital, we also allow students and teachers to take notes virtually on the book. So their notes get stored on the cloud, on their account, without them having to maintain a physical notebook. Then we also, I spoke about the assessment feature, where the teachers can create exams using this software, using this platform, and the students can submit the exam. We spoke about the assignments. assignments, teachers can give video assignments. Teachers, in fact, I'll give you an example from another island. When they had their Independence Day celebrations, the teacher in grade 3 primary asked all the students to create a video of them talking about the Independence Day celebrations and therefore submit the video materials for those set of students. And then lastly, I think you spoke about Google Translate. I'm sure a lot of teachers also use Google Classroom and all, where they can create different classes and all. Our feature also allows our platform allows teachers to create different groups of different students. Let's say if they have identified 10 students in a class who need extra help or who need remedial help, so they can prepare remedial material and only share it with those students who are in that particular group. Yeah.
Ms. Diamond, of course, we are approaching the Christmas and Carnival season. Students are doing exams now. So when do these systems come online?
Well, the systems are expected to be in full use in the near term. We are not where we want to be in terms of the internet connectivity, but we are certainly working on it assiduously. So we are hoping that that too will be something that if we are able to get the tender out by the end of this year, maybe by the first quarter, we'll be in a position to have some action or activity around that. So we are hoping that in the new year, and we are really hoping that with the devices being distributed, the students will get a chance to get familiar with the platform and be able to navigate it, see what's on it, and by the time we start in January, it should be a lot smoother.
Because that is a question I was going to ask as a follow-up as well too, in terms of there's some persons who might have suggested, why distribute them so early, in the fact that, as you mentioned, the festive season is approaching, persons may not be as careful as they should be, and, may get excited with a device. It's a new toy. Some of them may see that and so begin to experiment when they're actually not going to be in use yet.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully they'll be learning the platform, learning what's available, learning the features, and really learning how to navigate the system. That's what we're hoping.
Any integration of AI, Mr. Behera?
Yes, definitely. I think that AI is something we cannot ignore no matter what. It is an inevitable reality that we have to accept. And therefore, our company, like I said, I really like the question that you asked, like, how do we ensure that whatever device we use, whatever software we use over a period of time, how do we stay relevant? And for us as a company, for us to stay relevant, to be able to make impact and be successful, we will have to include components of AI going into the future.
And finally, Ms. Diamond, in terms of the practical use of it, being able to download the textbooks, and they're already loaded in the program, those things are already available?
They are. Once you have your login credentials and you can access the platform, you can access the libraries. So
and the login credentials are issued when the contracts are signed?
The login credentials are issued before the contract is signed, actually, because in preparing the devices, we had to provide to the company the login credentials for each person. So those were prepared in advance. And before we leave, I really want to acknowledge the hard work of persons in our department who would have been instrumental in making this comprehensive rollout happen. Persons like Mr. Christopher Herbert, who is the project coordinator and who did the work in terms of the procurement. There was a whole team helping with the preparation of the devices, because the devices came without anything, and we wanted to make sure that they were in a state to receive the platform. And we had a whole team. We had the help of persons from CFBC. We brought our lab techs from out of the schools. We changed our conference room into a networking hub. We had persons like Satya and Deb. So it was really a stakeholder effort. And so I don't think we can close without me acknowledging the gratefulness of our department to those persons. Dr. Neil and the students at CFPC who came on board to help, those persons who came on board as lab techs, and just persons who we got from SEP office, and the team at EPD headed by Mr. Herbert and Mr. Reiner, Mr. Johnny Williams. Those were some of the key players who helped to drive this whole process, and we're extremely grateful for their input.
It's a good point to end our program on. Carla Diamond with the Ministry of Education. Satyajit Behera for Fortuna Pix. Thank you so much for appearing with us this week on InFocus.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
I'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition. We trust that you were updated appropriately about some of the systems of the software of the new laptops and tablets that are being given out, and that you are excited to ensure that the government is moving forward with the education of our children so that they will be able to be in a better position to take advantage of the sustainable island state opportunities that are being offered in St. Kitts and Nevis and across the world. For now, we trust that you will join us next week at the same place at the same time for another edition of InFocus. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio